asking yourselves the same question? Why so blue?
To take
Even on a planet as magical and mystical like Pandora, something like death tends to stick. Avatar 1 made that abundantly clear, as none of the characters who died fighting in the Pandora War were brought back to life. The one neutral transfer attempt they did make before the war failed miserably, leading to the death of Dr. Grace Augustine. So when we first saw Colonel Miles Quaritch, whose death was probably the most cathartic moment of the first film, our only thought was, how the heck did this guy come back to life? Well, we are going to answer that exact question in this video. So, spoiler alert if you somehow haven't seen Avatar: The Way of Water yet, because there will be a lot of those in this video. Colonel Miles Quaritch died towards the end of Avatar 1, but was always slated to come back. When James Cameron announced his planned sequels to his box office success Avatar all the way back in 2010, none of us thought that we'd be seeing the claw-marked menace that was Colonel Miles Quaritch ever again. But as more news started coming out over the years about the development of these massive sequels, Cameron made it clear that Quaritch was going to play a central role in the first 3 of the planned 5-movie saga. We have wondered ever since how that was going to play out, because if you recall the end of Avatar, Neytiri sent a couple of arrows into Quaritch's chest with Olympic precision. Miles did oversee the Avatar division of the RDA operation on Pandora, but there is no mention of him ever having one made for himself. In fact, his opinion of the Na'vi was nothing short of racist, as he viewed them as barbarians, jujubes, bugs, and practically every other slur you can think of. So it was shocking to see him resurface in Avatar: The Way of Water, not only alive, but as an Avatar himself. But how exactly was this possible? Well, you see, it isn't exactly the Miles Quaritch that we saw in the first movie that we see in the second. Miles Quaritch is technically a Na'vi clone with only the memories of his life before his death. 14 years passed between the events of Avatar 1 and 2, with the Sky people having seemingly learnt their lesson once and for all. That statement did come true, though perhaps not in the way the Na'vi and Jake Sully had hoped for. After the assault on the Tree of Souls failed, and the Omaticaya clan evicted the RDA personnel from Hell's Gate, Parker Selfridge, the money-obsessed corporate head of the organization, gave Jake Sully an ominous warning by telling him that things weren't over. We learned that he meant that in Avatar 2. When we first saw Miles Quaritch wake up, we thought he was driving an Avatar because the framing and the way the scene plays out mirrors Jake Sully's first instance of linking with his own Avatar in the first film. But then he sees his former subordinate Lyle, who leads him out of the chamber and gets his colonel filled in on what in the blue heck is going on with him. Quaritch views a vlog he recorded for himself before the assault on the Tree of Souls, where he leaves a message for his future self on the off chance that he dies. Miles definitely did not think that he was going to get shot in the chest by Jake's wife at this point, which is evident in his mannerisms, but Parker Selfridge pops up to remind him the true purpose of the vlog, to prepare his recombatant self for his mission. He shows Quaritch a soul drive, which is a device that allows a person to upload all their memories and their personality into it. In the event that the poor person should pass away, his self can be uploaded into another body genetically similar enough to it. In the case of Colonel Miles Quaritch, that body was of an avatar, created specifically so that humanity could resume their exploitative efforts on Pandora with a native edge. In essence, mankind figured out a way to create an entire squad of avatars without the need for link units, one of their main vulnerabilities as soldiers. This makes the Soul Drive a technological equivalent of the consciousness transfer ritual that the Na'vi performed on Grace and Jake. But the drawback for such a power was that the Recomb would only remember things that happened before the recording was made, which meant that Quaritch did not recall the entire assault on the Tree of Souls or his own death thereafter. Also, because the avatars themselves are technically human Na'vi hybrids created by merging their DNAs and not a reincarnation of a human as a Na'vi, this means that Colonel Miles Quaritch did die for sure in the first film. The one we see in Avatar 2 is a clone, created because avatars do not flare up Pandora's self-defense mechanism quite like human beings do. This fact, combined with the marine training of Quaritch's Blue Squad, made them the perfect infiltration and guerrilla force for re-establishing human presence on Pandora to the level that it was at before they were defeated by Jake and the Na'vi. how will Recon Quaritch affect the story going forward? Though he might not be the same man that he once was, strictly speaking, there is still a shred of humanity left within Quaritch that became evident through his interactions with his son Spider. Throughout the movie, we see Miles going back on his own word and ideals when it came to his son, even though he was well aware of the fact that technically Spider was not his flesh and blood. He himself was not Colonel Miles Quaritch anymore. He was just a clone with a mission. But the moment he saw his son getting tortured, Miles moved Francis Ardmore into allowing him to take a personal approach. While it did work out well for his Blue Squad, as Spider ended up showing them how to bond with Ikrans and survive on Pandora like the natives, this humanity also served as his downfall towards the climax of The Way of Water. Quaritch held Kiri hostage in an attempt to get Jake to surrender to him, but Neytiri followed his example and pulled a knife on Spider. After she slashed him across the chest, Quaritch relented and gave up Kiri to ensure his son's survival, but was knocked unconscious by Jake in the following scuffle. The only reason he is still alive is thanks to Spider, who decided to save his drowning birth father before he became a part of Eywa's oceans. Quaritch, rightly impressed with his son's actions, acknowledges him as such and offers to take him in and raise him right, but Spider bluntly refuses in the Na'vi way. This prompts Quaritch to extend his vendetta to not just Jake but his entire family, and that kind of rage will be troublesome for the Na'vi in the third film. The Way of Water was Quaritch playing with the gloves on. He captured Jake's children on multiple occasions but never once made a move to kill them until the very end when everything was lost to him. Now that he had no qualms about going after all of them, even Baby Took, we imagine Jake's family will have to find yet another territory of Pandora to migrate to. But wherever they go, one thing is clear. Miles Quaritch's shadow will follow them. And because Stephen Lang's role hasn't yet been expanded beyond Avatar 3 yet, you can expect him to go out in a mushroom cloud if that is what things come to in 2024. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.